when conflict contributes to suicide. Part of the series, Relationship Conflict Resolution Insights from Brett Lovett's FamilyReconcile.com. That is our topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast by InstantMediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube, the Instant Mediations app, and anywhere you get your podcast. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact-dependent. Hey everyone, this is Mac Natalia, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator working throughout Florida and Texas.
And Natalia Ołowska-Czajka, advocate, mediator, and arbitrator from Warsaw, Poland.
And I'm Brett Lovett. I'm the founder of Family Reconcile, and I am in Southern California.
All right, Brett, it's been a while, so welcome back as we continue your various series on family reconciliation, because that's been the primary theme that you've been presenting with us for the last, over a year. Okay, it's been a while since we've been working with you on this. And recently we were finishing up episode number 140, I think, with one of the other contributors. So we're probably going to be reaching 150 this week, but it's good to continue on with you as always. And so this topic that we're about to talk about today is a very serious one. It's a very solemn one, but it's a very important one that we wanted to make sure that we get out to the people, almost as a public service announcement from Instant Mediations and on behalf of FamilyReconcile.com. But first, a couple of things. Brett, how have you been? It's been a little while. Can you tell us a little bit about Authority Magazine?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be here again with you guys. I care deeply for each one of you and the platform and things we talk about here. One of the things I've been heavily involved in is a bit more involved in journalism. I was able to have or acquire a series within Medium.com's Authority Magazine. If somebody wants to look those things up, you can go to Medium.com, you can go to AuthorityMagazine.com. And my particular series working on is focused, it's relational, primarily between, it's how to rekindle love in marriage that has grown cold is really the thrust of the article, but it's about connection in trying to talk about the importance of connection in that realm of marriage. But I want to say right straight away, it's not just about marriage. The value of connection applies to all of our relationships. My relationship with myself, my relationship with you, Mac, with you, Natalia, our relationships with our neighbor, our people in the community and society itself. I just happen to focus that connection for the sake of the series on marriage, because there are, marriage counseling, therapy, advice is if you do a search on it, there's a lot of people that search for it. So there's a need there. That's why we focused the series on that in particular. As a result of that, I had the privilege to interview people all over the world, but primarily here in the United States, and doctors, psychologists, mental health professionals. And, I usually generally use that same series of questions. I use the same series of questions that for each one, but you get different answers, obviously, from each of the individuals. So that's what I've been up to. That's what's been keeping me busy amongst the family relationship or Family Reconcile's mentoring initiative. Between those two things, that's what I've been doing. Happy to be here again.
Awesome. So yeah, Natalia, I'll give you the floor before I go back to the topic of the day. Yeah, what's up? Go ahead.
We wanted to talk today about the intersection of conflict and suicide because of how global the suicide as what happens is, and because of the need to prevent it so strongly. Brett, if you would go to the root of suicides, you being the one who deals with conflicts, you being the one who deals with lack of connection, what would you say in terms of defining what causes people to do that? Are there any things you see yourself that can give us some insight into that?
Well, as Mac mentioned at the beginning, this is really, you could talk indefinitely on the subject. It's broad. There's a lot of factors that contribute to all agree the importance of the initiative, the 988 initiative, because the world is recognizing this is an issue. It's an issue globally. And I think on some levels we failed as a society. I said before now in a more robust way. So hopefully this is a large step in that direction. What causes a person to take the life of others at the same time is any number of things, but conflict often is a part of that. It could be a personal conflict, family conflict, it could be secular or economic difficulty or conflict. Those are there's a pressure there that comes from that, and if that pressure is not dealt with, if it's not dealt with in a healthy way, as difficult as that is, then it can lead people down a road where they feel despair and they feel hopelessness. And when you get there, people start to entertain thoughts about, going on any further. And I mentioned that there's this personal thought experience from 20 years ago for me relevant. And hopefully the listeners can take some value from this. We had a dear friend. I was in my late 20s. He was in his mid 60s. Sweetheart of a man, really good man. He told me one day, through our friendship, he goes, Brett, I struggle with I struggle with thoughts of suicide. I have got to apologize. Why is this? My light keeps going on and off. Hold on. Let me, it's on a timer. Hold on 1 second.
Now, of course, Brett's audio listeners are seeing what's happening, but on the video, the light, it seems, wants to continue playing with him. But yeah, you're back. Please continue.
Never goes off. And, when we start to do the recording, it goes off twice. So sorry about that. So I asked him, he told me that he struggles with thoughts of suicide. That for me, that's not the man that I knew. That's not the man that I saw, that I engaged with. He was smiling. He was gentle. He was kind. For this man to tell me that he dealt with the thoughts of suicide every day was really struck me. Through the course of the friendship, there was one particular day, and I asked him because I had been thinking about it, and I thought, his name was Ray. And I said, Ray, what causes somebody to take, for instance, put it to their head and pull the trigger? I can't imagine what causes somebody to do that. And without skipping a beat, he said, Brett, when the pain that an individual is dealing with becomes more than the pain of putting a firearm to your head and pulling the trigger is when they do it. And that really, that really struck me. I went, wow, the pain of what you're with can be more than that graphic image in your head. That is what many people are dealing with. If there are listeners right now that are dealing with that, that's why we're here talking about this. We want to draw attention to there are phone calls that they can make We can highlight some of the government websites, but this is just, if this is something that's resonating with you, our verbiage, what we're talking about, there's something that you can do. Don't just let it go on.
Yeah, we can hear you. Were you continuing? Can you hear us, Brett?
No, I was just gonna stop there.
Oh, no, thank you so much. No, I appreciate it. And the story you just shared, I think a lot of us have been personally impacted by suicide. So a lot of people who might be listening or watching, they may be familiar with how this stuff hits home, right? In many ways, it became a sort of global pandemic, not necessarily because of the pandemic, but right before there was a huge spike. I'm going to share some data on my share screen in a second. But personally, I've been hit with this in my own life. Where one of my relatives, took her life some years ago, and the anguish that the family feels and the pain, the loss, that's something that people don't necessarily recover from that easily. It takes a long time because you grieve the person every day you wake up, remembering them as a loved one. So nationally, and I'm speaking for the United States, of course, and we have our uh, celebrated European here, Natalia, who will go a little bit into the numbers in Poland. But I will share my screen. Give me about 2 seconds. If you're listening, you can definitely check this out on the on the YouTube channel, your lawyers mediators. But we'll get to the 988 in a minute because we definitely want to get that information out. But in the United States, on average, adjusted for age, the annual US suicide rate increased 30% from 2000 to 2020, from 10.4 to 13.5 suicides per 100,000 people. And lower level, the here's some statistics that came from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in 2016. The annual age adjusted suicide rate is 13.42 per 100,000 people. Males die by suicide 3.5 times more than females. On average, there are 132 suicides per day. White males accounted for 7 out of 10 suicides in 2016. A firearm is used in almost 50% of all suicides, and the rate of suicide is highest in middle age among white men in particular. So this goes on, and there's a lot of data, you know, but it also says that a lot of suicides are probably underreported because of stigma. And so family members don't report, a cause of death as being by suicide because of societal pressures. And so it's possible that the suicide rate's actually higher than what we see in the analysis. So when we say this is a problem, it's a global problem. It's a real thing. And I think the pandemic probably exacerbated this. And so recently, the United States has just launched a new 988 mental health hotline. People might be familiar with 911, right? In the US. Any city you are, anywhere you are, you call 911 for an emergency, usually a physical emergency, and they will route you to the nearest police station or emergency services station to protect you and to help you and to give you help. But now we have one for there's a suicide hotline as well. Now it's not just 911, it's a 988 lifeline. And we're encouraging people to share this information, 988lifeline.org or just 988 on your phone. Share it with the people who you're concerned about. You can even chat right on the website. And this has just gone live today, July 16, 2022. and it's national, and it's using the 200 local suicide prevention centers around the country to help route the calls from the caller to the suicide prevention expert who can actually help you. Okay. So please take that number down. It's just 988, just like 911. And they will help anybody who might be facing suicide. And Natalia will share some information about how it is in her country as well.
And while Poland is a country of 38 million people, there is 15 suicides per day, and 222 people attempting to commit suicide. And please know that we do have good prevention programs. One of these of the websites for that is being shared by Mac on the screen now, which is the program for the prevention of suicide behavior. And that's also, and this is like a non-governmental one, and there is also a governmental one, a part of the healthcare system, because the problem is so big. What it says is that people dying out of suicides is far more than those dying in the car crashes. And car crashes we take seriously because we are afraid of our loved ones losing their life this way. And what we are doing, we're like underestimating the situation with the possibility of our loved ones committing a suicide. And please know one more thing. The statistics shows that 20 people are affected by each suicide at least. That means that this is a tragedy that results from a single death. And there is also a study that shows that whenever they're like with younger children or youngsters, if there is a suicide that happens in those circles, it will be spreading. There will be more people from these circles from around who will want to try them on themselves. And this is why prevention is so important. And most of all, how we prevent is also a pattern on this, but I think that this is also something we want to discuss with Brad. And inevitably, what comes up every single moment where we talk about it is talking. We prevent suicide by talking. Brett, tell us what your practice shows.
It's suicide, no matter what it is or what drives it, is generally always going to be rooted in a relational difficulty, a relational conflict. And that could be a relational conflict with ourselves. It could be a relational conflict with family, or with society. It's relational. So yes, it's mental health, but it's really the root is going to be in the relational realm. The main thing I wanted to contribute to this program today is just to let whether you fully understand the difficulty or do you don't understand it at all, that's okay. That's okay. There are resources here and more becoming available. And we encourage you to reach out to one of them, something, even if the first, sometimes there's layers where you need to go through layers to get to what you need. But I also understand it's difficult for people. People are struggling. It's difficult for them to reach out. I'll share an experience with somebody that I know indirectly. His son had dealt with family. His son had dealt with mental health or just struggling with those suicidal thoughts like we talked about before in the beginning. And he got the best help. I mean, they used their insurance. They private paid. The son got really good help. And he was in his late teens, struggling, kind of going in and out of good times and bad times. In his early 20s, he approached his dad one day and he said, "Dad, what do you think? Would you be able to go on if I wasn't here?" Just approached his dad and asked him that sincerely. "Would you be able to go on with life if I wasn't here?" And his dad said, I don't even know that other than to tell you that I would try my best to go on, but it would be difficult. And he says, well, Dad, I just wanted to let you know, I just want you to know that if I'm not here, I want you to, to go on and make the best life for yourself that you can. That was essentially the essence of the conversation. Within like a year or two later, the son took his life. So here's a family doing its best to even address this issue, and they still couldn't overcome it. So this is not, if for some, if that ends up being the end result, and the father says there's not a day that goes by that he does, this particular father on that example says there's not a day that goes by that he doesn't think about it, and he's very emotional when he talks about it, but he did the best he could. The family did the best they could. Maybe some might not be able to be averted, but can. And it's those that we're really talking about here. If this information is resonating with you, then please take a courageous step, and reach out to someone that you know. As Mac highlighted, we have the 988 number now. You can even chat online. It's a difficult step. I want to acknowledge that. Don't let that difficulty stop you from reaching out. This is a relational issue. Let someone listen to you, and really there should be more listening than speaking, especially in the beginning. And just see where that takes you, and see if that relieves any of the pressure from for a moment. My main thrust here is, do not try to do this alone. Do not try to overcome this alone. Do not try to make the decisions alone. There are people who care, and we work with people like that on a regular basis. Family Reconcile is about relationship mentorship, relationship mentoring, working with people, daily contacts. Sometimes we need that daily and that reassurance just to get through that day, one day at a time. That would be the thrust of what I would like to contribute to this public service announcement.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And so we wanted to keep this short, and so we'll be wrapping up. Natalia, did you have any final statements you wanted to make?
Yes, I would want to make the statement that what we are also very much concerned about are the suicidal rates among children. We deal with family law, we deal with families, and children also give out signals about it that shouldn't be disregarded. I know relationship from the hotlines like the one that is now trying to be and that is now being established within the United States. I've read conversations with people working on similar hotlines here. On many occasions, those who are calling are young people, and they say that their parents are in the room next to them. They are there, and they are still alone within the room they are in. And it is the most difficult step for them to go out and reach out to the parents. But should the children be doing this one step, shouldn't it be the parents who should be aware and also reach out and see how the child is doing? The very basic question is just to keep the daily contact. By asking how is it going, by how was it school, things that we then hate about the childhood, but maybe they had this effect of not losing the connection, because we are a part of someone's life every single day, and that makes these people feel being cared for, that makes these people being wanted, that makes these people being someone that really shows day by day that there is someone around, someone that you can count on.
Thank you for that. Earlier, we had done a recording with Fran Brockstein on the topic of handguns when mediating family disputes. And so, one of the things that we mentioned in that recording, in that episode, was, how handguns need to be kept in secure places. And this is one issue that parents sometimes debate and discuss. And we have good solutions for how we can help protect kids and put these in court orders. But when I read earlier the statistics that says that 50% of all suicide that happen tend to occur with firearms, with weapons, with guns, then it goes to show there's a direct connection between keeping guns away from kids so it's not too available. I'm not saying not to train or teach children how to use weapons. I'm saying keeping them locked up and secure so that they are not being used also not just by the kids by people who may at a moment decide to use it to cause harm to themselves. So just a connection that I just thought of. All right, guys. Brad, anything else before we close out?
No, appreciate the opportunity just to join this session today on this important topic, and I think it's better to keep it brief than to go into all the different avenues we could go into. We just wanted to highlight that there's resources there. There are other people that have been of this, and if this information is resonating with you, reach out. It is generally, and as I alluded to, it is generally a relational issue. It's relational based. So don't try to carry it by yourself. There are those of us out here, even in this group right here, who are ready and willing to just listen if we need to. Just don't do it alone.
Thank you so much. And with that, guys, just remember that number 988 if people need some help. All right. Take care, everybody. Until next time.